Hey everybody, so I'm trying to get back into the swing of things and making these videos. I did do a video last week that talked about my D&D campaign with the with the Grognards, my old friends that I've been playing with forever. We did have another session this past weekend, which had some excellent stuff happen and some good laughs. We almost had a couple of party kills in the game, which came down to a die roll or two, but I'll talk about those in a little bit in another video. I want to talk about Origins. I want to talk about the fact that I attended Origins as a member of Gray Fox Games, and I wanted to talk a little bit. This is going to be not a rant. It isn't going to be an angry rant at all. But it is something that like made me reflect a lot on the flight home from Columbus back to Moorhead, Minnesota, where I live. So Origins was great, which is weird because the last couple years my feelings coming out of Origins were like, I don't know why we attend this convention. And that's from a publisher standpoint. So it's one of those things where they have thousands and thousands of people show up, but you don't really see that many people. If you've ever been to Gen Con, you know that at certain times in the day, like it is impossible to like walk through some of the areas of Gen Con just because of the sheer number of people. It feels very congested. It feels very difficult to be there. But with Origins, it never felt like that. And it hasn't felt like that. And I don't think it ever has felt like that. It could be the way that they set up the booth structure. It could be just the way that the gaming convention is in general. I do think that Origins is much more a players convention as opposed to an exhibitor convention. That isn't to say that exhibitors can't do well. I mean, we ended up selling almost all of our product that we brought. Which is really cool because we didn't have anything new. Usually at a convention, you're like, "Oh, check out this new game we just released," kind of thing. And we don't have that with Gray Fox Games. We're right now working through the production of the new Champions of Midgard that's going to be coming out next year. And so it's just one of those things where, you know, we could show off some of our excellent games. We could show off Last Light, we could show off After the Empire, but we weren't able to do like as far as something brand new and shiny. We didn't have that. But regardless, we had people that were very interested in our games, very interested in purchasing our games. And one thing that I did realize is that, like when we did our Last Light crowdfunding, it, made a big splash. We did very well. We were very successful. And then it's one of those things where in this board game world, you just kind of have like this 1% chance of having a game show up and everybody talks about it, and then it stays in the mindset, if you will, of the gamers. It just maintains that spot. But even with that, like you still will have people that won't recognize games. So one of the things that's cool about Last Light, if you've ever seen it, is that it is a 4X space game, but it actually has little standy planets that kind of poke up and when you set up on a table, people see it and they're like, oh my gosh, what is this? It has a great factor as far as drawing people in. And in lots of situations, we have people that are like, I've never heard about this. I've never seen this. And that's kind of weird, because of the fact that, since I'm so close to the project and since I'm so close to that game, it feels odd to me when people have never heard of it. So I have to realize that we're constantly getting new blood into the board game hobby, and we're constantly getting new people in, and recognize the fact that maybe publishers shouldn't just. I don't think publishers give up on games that they published years ago. But I do think that obviously as publishers also we go on to the next thing and we kind of forget about, you know, making sure people realize that our older stuff exists. I'm not saying that's something that needs to change or anything like that. I don't know if it needs to change. I don't know what the answer there is. But I did find it very interesting that um, games like something like Last Light, something that was very popular with people, that like really hit home with a lot of people, uh, now is reaching that point where people don't know it exists. Like they're like, where is this game coming from, or how did this game even, you know, come out? You know, did I had somebody, because it has a revolving board, say, oh, did you take the revolving board from SETI, which is a Euro game from Czech Games, great game by the way, that has a revolving board, yet our game came out first. So it's just something to think about, something that's interesting. But like I said, Origins was great. The people were great. The mood was great. You know, we had a lot of fun there. I didn't play any games. Just when you sit in a booth, you know, for 8 hours, talking to people, showing games off to people for 8 hours. My whole intent after that is get something to eat and then get back to my hotel room so I can rest up, take a shower, and get ready for the next day. So my understanding is that Origins had an increase in attendance this year, which is awesome. I don't know if they've reached, I mean, don't quote me on this. I don't think they've reached their pre-COVID um, attendee level yet, but I think that they're heading in that right direction, and I think they're going to pull that off. And I should say this again: the people that run Origins, whenever I had a question or an issue or a problem, I was able to find somebody, get an answer, and get it taken care of, and that was awesome. So, thank you to everybody that, like, if you stop by my booth, Gray Fox Games, I had several people, and I don't say this to brag, but I had a lot of people mention like, oh, I remember watching your videos, you know, about board games and whatever, and I tell everything in another life, right? You know, that's just not what I do really anymore. But so I didn't get a lot of time to wander around. I did reconnect with a few people that publishers that I like to think of are really good friends. You know, Clay over at Capstone Games, Zev at Play to Z Games. Obviously, he was with the Z-Man before. I ran into Stephen Bonacore. I ran into, I mean, this feels like I'm just name dropping at this point. And I worked in the industry for a decade now. So it's really not, you see people, you meet people, you talk to people. I mean, I had a booth that was right next to Van Ryder Games, which was great because I really, really like Julie and AJ. They're two of the best friends I've ever made in the industry. And we were able to sit down and chat and have a good conversation. So that part of it is excellent. I'm really looking forward to Gen Con because there's a lot of people that didn't make it to Origins that I'm going to see at Gen Con. And that comes up here at the end of July, which we're not quite in July yet. I'm recording this on the 30th of June. Tomorrow is the beginning of July. But regardless, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of nice, and it's just kind of for the first time in a while, I'm looking forward to a convention, and I don't know why that is. Maybe just because Origins went really well. Now, when I did get to wander around Origins, you know, there were just a few places I wanted to check out. Usually, I look to see if there's any new releases that are interesting me. You know, nothing really stood out. You know, I did know I was going to check out a couple of booths about like role-playing games. Somebody told me I still do some modeling. Check out the Dirty Down booth. I think it's like Goblin Hut or something like that. But like, go Google this, Dirty Down Gore. Just Google that and go watch the videos of how people are using this stuff to make really, really nice blood effects. And they have one called Snot that's clear. Here, I'll just grab it and show you. And that's dirty down snot, and the snot can actually, since it's clear, you can actually put whatever color you want into it, and so you can mix that up. And it's some really cool effects as far as putting some goo on your minis. So I went and checked that guy out and checked out his stuff. Uh, and that was pretty cool. I went to some RPG booths and checked things out. And I'm not going to mention the name of the person here just because I don't want anybody saying anything or anything like that. But I ended up talking to somebody that I knew, not really closely, by any means, but knew of, had conversations with before, um, and we ended up talking about role-playing games in general. And we talked about, person was about the same age as I am, got into playing D&D about the same time I did, and we started talking about, just um, the D&D we grew up with, how it has changed, how it is, whatever it is. Very, very good conversation. Very, very insightful. I'm not saying about me. I'm talking about the other person that I was speaking to. And at one point, we were talking about the current state of things in like D&D, and how we have the OSR movement that has, and ultimately these conversations just seem to go here. We have the OSR movement that is growing to has a little bit of a groundswell to it, right? I mean, I think OSE, Old School Essentials, kind of put the base down and really gave a lot of other publications a chance to also kind of fill in the cracks and the nooks as far as that is concerned. And then here comes Shadow Dark, and Shadow Dark kind of just piles on top of that. And it is like obviously very, very successful and very, very popular. Now, I own Shadow Dark. I've implemented a few of the rules and put them into the games that I played. My son ran a Shadow Dark campaign. That was the campaign that he ran before. Now I'm running the campaign for my son and his friends. But so what I have in those situations is that to a T, most people are like, oh, yeah, I mean, Shadow Dark, it's just like, congratulations to them. Glad they're bringing it up. But I think a lot of people, and I mean, again, I don't use any rule set other than the rule set that like we created, like, as friends, nearly 40 years ago now. But we adopt stuff, we steal stuff constantly, which is, I think, what you're supposed to do. But I do believe that there is, and I'm not saying this person I spoke to felt this way, I'm just saying I do believe there is a certain level of resentment towards, and not by everyone, just a small percentage, towards the success of Shadow Dark, because it's almost too popular. It is a situation where it's kind of like the punk band, I knew them before they were cool type of thing. And how it's almost too mainstream because because Shadow Dark does implement a fair number of 5th edition D&D mechanisms, which is fine, and there's nothing wrong with that. My point is, during this conversation, we started talking about that, and I started talking about some of like the online turds that you deal with when you're talking about anything OSR. And I talked about how the one thing I just can't stand about being an old school D&D player is the fact that I am associated with, and I've done a rant about this before, a bunch of old white men that just don't want things to be different, don't want things to change, don't want, and just these go woke, go broke piece of. I'm trying not to swear much here, but I mean these go woke, go broke turds. These just bigoted, racist, misogynist pieces of crap that just, they're getting older and they're just cemented in their ways, and you're never going to change their minds and never going to do anything. And I said that, and then this person I was speaking to, again, good 15, 20-minute conversation about D&D, really, really fun conversation, said the thing that just made me go, oh. It wasn't as bad as you might think, but it was just like, I got well, there's bad people on both sides. And I'm actually kind of ashamed of myself because I felt like I should have at that point said, really, what's the bad on the other side? I said, we have people that are like really, really vocal about, like, you know, talking about how they don't want to have people that are trans in represented in their games, or they don't want there to be, dancing orcs, or they don't want there to be any sort of homosexuality in their role playing games. Um, and because they think it makes it bad. I said, I should have said, what's the bad on the other side? What side over here that are these people that are saying, you know, actually, we want you to just, it's like we want representation for people that don't have representation in our games. We think that would be a good thing. We think it would be a good thing for people that are non-binary to be represented in these things. What's the bad part over there? And I should have said that. And like, to this moment, I mean, because it gives the person the moment to say, oh, well, what I meant is this, or whatever, or what I meant is, oh, I don't really like how. I mean, I'm just trying to. I don't want to put words in this person's mouth, but I don't want. I don't want to say. I don't want to. I don't want to put. I don't want to have people say, "Oh, well, just because you don't like gay people, that means you're a horrible fucking person, and that you're a racist, bigoted, and homophobic piece of crap, whatever." Those people are awful, and I would like them to say something like that, and then I could say, "Yeah, I maybe there's a bad actor that jumps to that conclusion, but I mean, and just like most people that like playing first edition AD&D aren't going out and saying, "Oh my gosh, all this young people's D&D they're playing, it's just a bunch of garbage and they're horrible human beings for wanting to play it because of this, they're ruining Gary Gygax's legacy or whatever." I mean, there's a lot of people that I just want to play my game, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to play my game at my table, and I'm not involved with this, right? But it's one of those things where it's like, instead of just saying, "Well, there's bad actors on both sides." Okay, well, fine. Here's what I'm saying is the bad actors on this side: the racists, the bigots, the homophobes. What's the bad over here? Tell me what that is. And I feel like I missed a golden opportunity. And I left that conversation like feeling ugh, because I hate that both sides argument. And I learned something at that moment. The next time somebody says to me, "Well, I think there's bad things of both," yeah, it's both sides or whatever, I would ask, explain to me what side both sides are in your impression, and give them the moment to explain that and explain how they feel, and then have a meaningful conversation about that and about the combination there, and maybe come away from that conversation with a better idea of where that person's viewpoint is. But I was left with a feeling of hope, actually, after I thought about it and I thought about it and I thought about it on the plane ride home. Yeah, and this totally did live, as the kids say, rent free in my brain. As I was flying home, I applied it to myself, and I applied it to my memories of myself growing up. And like, every once in a while I'll get a Facebook memory that'll pop up where I'm saying 10, 11, 12 years ago, where I'm saying, "Well, both sides are the same. There's bad actors on both sides." I used to be a very moderate individual as far as my feelings about the way the world worked, about the way the world acts. I know, and I remember saying and doing like, yeah, not anything racist or anything like that, but basically very insensitive things, very intolerant things, I guess I would say, because, but I felt justified in saying what I had to say, and because of what I felt. But I still remember the day that like, and I don't remember, it was several years ago, where finally like when people were, I don't even remember the exact issue it was, but a light bulb went off in my head. And I said, why are you people arguing against this? Like it just seemed in when I really started moving to the left and I really started moving towards my present mentality. And if you don't know what my political spectrum is, I'm very liberal. I vote Democratic. I think there are absolutely horrendous problems with the way our political system works right now, and I think there are horrendous problems with the Democratic Party. Um, but I think that the right wing part, the Republican Party, is horrible. Is way more horrible than the Democrats are, and that's my option. Really, that's my. I believe in far more left wing principles than what the Democratic Party presents. But that's my option as a citizen of the United States. I'm sure you all knew that already, but just getting out there. But I remember I was very moderate. I was very like I would say things like, all politicians lie, all politicians are horrible, all politicians are bought and sold. And when you take that centric mentality, I feel like it is a safety net. It is in almost every case when I've talked to somebody that has that mentality, that feels that way, it's always like, well, it's not my fault because I see that everything's fucked and everything's stupid. And I'm the one with my eyes that are open and I see what's going on. Not the rest of you sheep that just follow along with whatever platform is being presented to you. I get it. And it is. It's a very arrogant spot to hold. It is only when you actually start confronting those situations and confronting the way you feel about them that you really start growing and you really start realizing, oh my gosh, maybe this middle of the road mentality isn't for me. And you have a light bulb moment and you realize that you need to go all in on one side or the other. And that's why when I say I had hope, here I had somebody about the same age as me, white, male, and they were still holding on to this, everything is bad on either side. And what that means is I hadn't lost that person to the right, which means that the next time I see them, and I will see them again, I know they'll be at a convention that I will be attending, probably Gen Con. I'm going to find them. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to ask them. I'm going to ask them that question that I should have asked. I'm going to have a good conversation. And I look forward to that. And I look forward to that conversation that I can have. So it's a situation where slowly but surely, this world that I live in, one person at a time, we can get them thinking the right way. And I do say the right way. And I guess, yeah, I mean, there might be one or two of you still left out there that listen to me and watch my videos that aren't going to agree with my political ideas. And if you want to leave me alone and not listen to what I have to say, I guess that's your right. And see you later. Take care. God bless. But one person at a time. Have a meaningful conversation. Have that light bulb go off, and get them to realize what needs to be done to make this country we live in, a place of caring, a place of empathy, a place of love, a place of acceptance, a place of kindness, and not to end this video on a zinger, but actually make it great. Anyway, that's Origins. That's my thoughts. Love to hear your thoughts. If I saw you at Origins, love to see you post down below. Yeah, I'll have another video later this week. Take care, everyone.